93% of American drivers believe they're above average at driving. Think about that for a second. Mathematically, that's impossible. Your brain has been lying to you your entire life, making you think you're smarter, more skilled, and more capable than you actually are. And before you think this doesn't apply to you, that reaction right there, that's exactly the bias we're talking about. In the next 11 minutes, you'll discover why we constantly overestimate our abilities, how this bias shapes every decision you make, and what recent research from 2026 reveals about this phenomenon. By the end, you'll never look at your own judgment the same way again. Let's dive in. The story begins in 1995 with a bank robber named MacArthur Wheeler. This guy walked into two Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight and robbed them. No mask, no disguise. Security cameras caught everything. Police arrested him that same night. When they showed him the surveillance footage, Wheeler was absolutely shocked. He said, quote, "But I wore the juice." Wheeler had covered his face with lemon juice because he believed it would make him invisible to cameras. Like invisible ink, but for faces. He wasn't on drugs. He wasn't mentally ill. He was just so incompetent that he couldn't recognize his own incompetence. This bizarre case inspired psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger to investigate. What they discovered changed psychology forever. They ran a series of experiments testing people on grammar, logic, and humor. Then they asked participants to estimate how well they performed. The results were stunning. People who scored in the bottom 25th percentile estimated they were in the 62nd percentile. The worst performers thought they were above average. Not just slightly above average, way above average. Here's the kicker. The skills needed to be good at something are the exact same skills needed to recognize you're bad at it. If you don't know grammar rules, you can't spot your grammar mistakes. If you don't understand logic, you can't see the holes in your reasoning. A 2026 study from Stanford replicated these findings with over 15,000 participants. The effect is universal, and it's getting worse. The researchers found something else. As people gained expertise, their confidence actually dropped before rising again. Experts know what they don't know. Now let's talk about the planning fallacy. This is where overestimating abilities gets really dangerous. You think a project will take 2 hours. It takes 6. You think you'll finish that report by Tuesday. It's done Friday. This isn't just about being bad at time management. It's a systematic bias in how our brains predict the future. When planning, we imagine the best-case scenario. No interruptions. No unexpected problems. Perfect focus. Perfect execution. But reality never matches that fantasy. Studies show we underestimate task duration by an average of 40%. Even when researchers told participants about the planning fallacy and asked them to adjust their estimates, they still underestimated. Knowing about the bias doesn't protect you from it. The Sydney Opera House was supposed to take 4 years and $7 million. It took 14 years and $102 million. A 2026 Harvard study found that 78% of major projects go over budget and over schedule. This costs the global economy over $2 trillion annually. Social media has turned this problem into an epidemic. Everyone's posting their highlight reel while you're living your behind the scenes. You see someone's vacation photos and assume their whole life is perfect. You see someone's business success post and forget about their 10 failed attempts. This creates what psychologists call illusory superiority. You think everyone else has it figured out, so you must be falling behind. But here's the twist. To compensate, you overestimate your own abilities in other areas. It's a defense mechanism. A 2026 study from MIT analyzed 10 million social media profiles. They found that people who consume more social media overestimate their abilities by 52% more than light users. The algorithm feeds you content that makes you feel either superior or inferior. Both fuel unrealistic self-assessment. Online courses promise to make you an expert in 30 days. YouTube gurus claim their simple system will transform your life. So you take one course, read one book, watch 10 videos, and suddenly you think you're qualified. You're not. You're at the peak of Mount Stupid. That's what researchers call the initial spike in confidence, when you learn just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be competent. Then there's survivorship bias. You only hear from people who succeeded. The thousands who failed doing the exact same thing, they're invisible. Every entrepreneur who made it tells you to follow your passion and take risks. But for every success story, 90 startups failed. A 2026 analysis found that 82% of small businesses fail within 5 years. But if you only listen to the winners, you'll think it's easy. Overconfidence makes you underestimate risks. You quit your job too early. You invest money you can't afford to lose. You skip the preparation. The people who actually succeed, they knew they didn't know everything. They sought feedback. They stayed humble. They prepared obsessively. Research shows that accurate self-assessment is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. Not confidence, accuracy. So what do you do about this? First, actively seek negative feedback. Not from haters, but from experts who can identify your actual skill level. Second, track your predictions. Write down how long you think tasks will take. Compare it to reality. Your brain will start to calibrate. Third, study people who failed doing what you want to do, not just the success stories. Understand why things go wrong. Fourth, embrace being a beginner. When you start learning something new, you're supposed to be bad at it. That's the entire point of learning. Fifth, use the 10,000-hour rule as a reality check. Expertise takes roughly 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. If you put in less than that, you're not an expert yet. And finally, remember that confidence and competence are not the same thing. The most confident person in the room is often the least qualified. If this video made you question your own abilities in a good way, hit that like button and subscribe. We explore the hidden psychology behind human behavior every single day. The gap between what you think you know and what you actually know is where growth happens. Stay curious, stay humble, and keep questioning yourself. That's where real expertise begins.